A few years ago, I went Black Friday shopping. Originally, I had just planned on going to the mall on actual Black Friday in the morning with my mom. However, there were a couple of things on sale that I wanted to get people for Christmas gifts, and I thought they might sell out by the next day. I decided to go Black Friday shopping on my own on Thanksgiving night, and then go again with my mom the next day. My parents and I were at family's house for Thanksgiving, and after we got home, I left to go shopping at about 10 p.m. I went to the nearby shopping center that had pretty much all of the popular stores and restaurants. My plan was to go to Target, Best Buy, Walmart, and maybe a couple of other stores. Most of these were within a mile of each other or so. When I got to Target, I saw that it was very busy. There were people everywhere. I was able to navigate my way to the things that I wanted, but it took a while to get up to the checkout area and complete the purchase. I remember that among the crowd of people, I noticed this guy who had a really tall spiked mohawk, and the rest of his head was bald. It was hard to miss because he was also pretty tall. I finished shopping at Target and then went to Walmart. Now, Walmart was just as busy, if not busier, than Target was. I once again went through the crowd of people through the store to find the items that I wanted. As I was near the back end of the store, I happened to notice the mohawk guy again. I found this interesting, but a coincidence. There were a lot of stores in the area, so it wouldn't be strange at all to see some of the same people at different ones. After I was at Walmart, I went to Best Buy. This store, like the others, was crowded and people were everywhere, and within probably 10 minutes of being inside, I saw the guy with the mohawk here as well. I was over by the laptops and computers, which was at the right side of the store, and he was maybe 30 feet away in the same area. I noticed that he was looking at me. Maybe he recognized me from the same 3 stores and thought it was a coincidence too. But when I looked over at him, he looked away quickly and sort of went out of sight. I got kind of suspicious and decided to go to the far opposite end of the store. For the first time that night, I was really paying attention to my surroundings and not just to finding things that I wanted to buy. I was way over near the appliances now, like refrigerators and those kind of things. This side of the store was significantly less crowded than the other side. Within a minute of being on that side, the guy with the mohawk showed up. I tried to pay attention to him without making it obvious. He didn't seem to be there with anybody and was just kind of standing around. I was getting more and more paranoid every second. I walked back towards the laptops again at the other end of the store. Once again, the man went to the area. He was even farther away this time, but he was still there. I would lose him in the crowd for a few seconds, but always saw him again with his distinct hair. Had he been following me the entire night? I wondered if that was the case, and if so, when he started following me. At that point, I'd gotten most of the things that I went out to get, and it was just after midnight. I wanted to go shopping with my mom the next morning, so I decided to call it a night. I checked out at Best Buy and then left the store. I parked at the back of the parking lot because of how busy it was, and when I was walking to my car and was about halfway there, I looked behind me. I saw the guy with the mohawk was now leaving the store. I walked faster and got to my car and then locked the doors. I felt much safer now and started driving home. There were a lot of other cars out, and it took me a few seconds to exit the parking lot. When I finally made it onto a road, the second I turned, I saw an older-looking pickup truck pull out right behind me. In my mirror, I immediately noticed the hair. It was the same guy, and he was now following me in his truck. I had a terrible feeling. I really didn't know what to do. I continued to drive home, which was maybe a 10-minute drive. As I was driving, the guy was following me at a pretty close distance in his truck. I took out my phone and called my mom. Thankfully, she was still awake. I told her that some guy was following me in his truck and I didn't know what to do. My dad was still awake too, and he was also listening. He got on the phone and told me not to drive home, but gave me a location sort of near our house and told me to drive around that area. He then said he was getting in his truck and leaving. I did what he said, and by the time I got there, almost 10 minutes later, my dad was already there. I pulled onto one street, and my dad pulled out right behind the truck in his. My dad tailed the guy and started honking his horn repeatedly. At the next street, the mohawk guy suddenly turned off, and my dad followed him. My dad then called me and told me to go home and said the guy was speeding away. He and I then drove home, and when we got there, the mohawk guy was long gone. I still don't know where the guy started to follow me, or why he was following me. I don't recommend anybody to do what my dad did, because we didn't really know if the guy could have been dangerous. Either way, I'm hoping nothing like this ever happens again. Several years ago, I went Black Friday shopping at Walmart. There were several locations near where I lived, and most of them opened at 6 p.m. on Thanksgiving night. I looked at their ad, and I knew of several items that were on sale that I was interested in. The ones I wanted most were electronics. Several video games caught my eye, a laptop, and possibly a TV. I wasn't desperate to get these things, but if I was able to get a great deal, I would do it. I went by myself because nobody else in my family wanted to go shopping on Thanksgiving night and would rather go the next day. I only planned to go to Walmart and was going to go back home afterwards. When I got there, a little after 6, the parking lot was already packed. I had never seen so many cars there before. I really had no interest in standing in a line or running through the store to get stuff like I had seen on some videos of crazy Black Friday shopping. After I parked my car and got inside the store, it was way more crazy than I thought it would be though. It was just like the videos that I had seen. People were literally everywhere. I was getting bumped into by people left and right just after entering the store. More and more people were coming in behind me as well. I quickly realized just getting anything would be difficult. I saw people holding TVs over their heads, and others were literally trying to sprint through the store. Right after seeing all of this, I decided that maybe I should just leave and come back in the morning when things weren't so crazy. I was kind of getting pushed by the wave of people deeper into the store. I walked around through the crowd and finally found an aisle with some walking room. I walked more through the store a bit, but everywhere I went seemed to be extremely crowded. The whole place seemed like complete chaos. I slowly made my way against the crowd, trying to get back to the exit. It took me a while, but eventually I was able to get back outside. I walked back out to my car and went inside before realizing that my wallet was gone. Immediately, my heart sank. I had no idea what had happened, if somebody stole it or if it fell out of my pocket or something. I thought it was unlikely that it fell out and more likely that somebody stole it. I knew that it was in my right side pocket of my pants where I always kept it. When I was in the store, I had bumped into so many people that really anybody probably could have pickpocketed me. Even if it had somehow just fallen out of my pocket, the chances of it still being on the ground without somebody picking it up were slim. Still, I needed to give it a chance, so I went back into the Walmart to look around and see. I walked through the mob of people, looking down at the ground for my wallet. I tried my best to retrace my steps, but never found anything. After that, I decided to go to the service desk and ask if somebody had found it and turned it in. I knew this was a really long shot, and it took probably 15 minutes just to get there and be able to talk to anybody. But when I did, they said they didn't have any lost wallets, and I left the store disappointed. I got back inside my car and tried to think about what possibly had happened. I went on my phone to freeze my credit and debit cards that I had in my wallet. Just then, my phone started to ring. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered the call anyways. There was a man on the other end, and he sounded very friendly. He said that he had found a wallet in Walmart, and he thought it belonged to me, and I was lucky that he found it because he wanted to give it back to me tonight. I felt extremely lucky by this, and was super happy that somebody had found my wallet and actually wanted to give it back. I asked if they were still near the Walmart, but they said no. The man on the other end of the phone said that I should come by and pick it up, and he wasn't that far away. He said we could meet outside of his house, and asked if he could text me the address. I said sure, and after he texted it to me, the man said that he would see me soon, and hung up. I was still just super relieved that I was going to get my wallet back. I put the address into my phone, and then left Walmart to go there. It took maybe about 10 minutes to get to the location. It took me in the opposite direction of where I lived, and the roads went from busy to quiet and more isolated. I turned onto a road covered by woods on both sides. Now I was very close to the location, but I was getting a little bit creeped out. I wasn't really seeing any houses at all. The area just seemed like woods or maybe a park. I kept driving and eventually arrived. It definitely was not somebody's house. It looked like an isolated park in the middle of the woods. I hadn't seen another car in a long time either. I parked my car and texted the guy that I was there. I then questioned if I was at the correct location. I got a response saying that I was, and I was then told to walk into the forest. By this point, I knew something was wrong, and I wasn't going to be stupid enough to actually walk into the forest. Still, I was curious. I stood outside my car, observing the area. It was really dark, and I really couldn't see much. It was also very quiet. Then, I heard a noise coming from inside the woods. I got a little scared, but I guess it could have just been an animal, like a squirrel. I texted the number again, asking why I was supposed to walk into the forest, and I thought that I was meeting at the guy's house. After I sent the text, I heard a quiet ding noise coming from inside the woods. When I heard that, I got back inside my car immediately. Getting my wallet back wasn't worth it. After I was inside my car, I turned my headlights on. This revealed what appeared to be a man peeking out from behind a tree in the woods. He then ducked back behind it. I sped out of there, and when I got home, I froze all of the cards that had been in my wallet. Luckily, I only had like $20 in cash in there, but I did need to get a new driver's license. I went to my bank the next morning and was able to get another card. Overall, I don't know who stole my card or how, but I'm glad I didn't go into the woods. I'm also much more careful when I go shopping, especially on Black Friday. I used to work at Target. This was around 5 years ago. I mostly worked on the sales floor, but was also trained to be a cashier and do some other stuff. One year, I was scheduled to work on Black Friday. Target opened at 6 p.m. on Thanksgiving night, and because at the time I was still in high school and had just turned 18 years old, I got off by 10 p.m. It was nice to only have to work for about 4 hours, and I clocked in that night at about 5:45 p.m. When I got there, I saw that there was already a line outside, and the parking lot was nearly full. I went inside through the employee-only entrance. When I got inside, I immediately saw that just about everybody we had was working. I had worked there for about 6 months at the time, and knew most of all the other employees because of working on the sales floor, and also sometimes cashiering. I would see just about everybody, and I said hi to a bunch of people that I knew. I even saw some faces that I didn't recognize. I'm sure there were some new seasonal workers, and other people who normally didn't work the same times as me. All of our managers were working as well, and I figured that we wouldn't have a problem with the Black Friday rush. However, when the doors were unlocked and a bunch of people rushed into the store, things got really busy fast. I quickly found myself doing many different tasks, and time was flying by. I was helping customers find things, picking up items people had left places and putting them back where they belong, and for a short time I cashiered. I think we had every single lane in the store open, which I had never seen before. After a few hours, I was near the back of the store, organizing one of the many shelves that had been messed up. We were still really busy, but not quite as busy as we had been in the hour or so after opening. Another employee came into my aisle and asked if I had a second. I looked up and saw a guy that I didn't recognize. He must have been one of the new seasonal guys. The Target name tag on his red shirt said, Michael. I said, sure, what do you need? He said to me that he was new and this was like his 4th day working, and he wasn't really sure how to handle a situation. I said I could try to help and asked him what the situation was. Michael said he would show me, and we walked out of the aisle. Then we walked past several customers and through a door on the side of the store leading to the back room area that we had. Back there, we just had products that hadn't made it to the sales floor yet. We were on the side of the store opposite from grocery, so it was quieter back there. After we walked back, we went through an exit door leading to the outside. Then, Michael walked out, and I followed. When we had made it now outside of the store, I was very confused. Outside the store, there was a little sidewalk, a small grass area with trees planted here and there, and then there was a quiet road. When I was out there, I noticed there was a car parked on the side of the road right next to where we were. Michael said, I'm trying to help these customers. I asked who they were, and I was interrupted by the doors of the car opening. It was a typical 4-door car, which was black, and I saw 2 men get out from the front seats. They were fairly large, and both had hats and sunglasses on, as well as gloves. The gloves weren't too strange because it was cold out, but the sunglasses sure were. I then felt myself being grabbed near the top of my arms, just below my shoulders, by Michael, who was behind me. He started pushing me towards the 2 men and the car. I asked what was going on and what he was doing. I couldn't believe this was actually happening. Get in the car, Michael said. It took a few seconds for me to kind of grasp the situation. The men seemed like they were coming over to help Michael get me inside their car. I struggled, but Michael's grip was strong. I started screaming and kicked out with my feet at Michael's ankles. It felt like I got him really good on the shin. This caused him to let go of me and almost fall to the ground. When this happened, both of the men started running to stop me. I turned around and sprinted towards the door, but quickly realized that it would be locked. The doors were rarely used and always locked from the outside. I realized then that I would have to try and outrun these men around to the front side of the store. I kept sprinting along the side, but could tell that the other men were gaining on me. I changed directions and then started running out into the street. Michael had gotten up and was now running after me as well. I was screaming like a crazy person and running to try to get away. When they were within probably 5 feet of me, I barely made it to the parking lot and saw a car that appeared to be driving in our direction. I ran right towards it and it honked at me. However, the men chasing me didn't want to grab me right in front of somebody else, at least that's what I figured. Instead, the men just kind of stood back and watched. I ran to the driver's door and yelled for them to call the police. Whoever was driving the car must have been super confused, but when the men heard me saying this, they started to leave. From there, I was able to go back inside the Target store. Police were called, and I told them everything I could. Unfortunately, the men did get away. Michael, if that was even his name, didn't even work there. I guess it's not too hard to find a red shirt and khakis and get a hold of a Target name tag. On Black Friday, nobody would really suspect him because of how busy it was. Our store did have security cameras, so I'm hoping that he was caught, whoever he was. I'm just glad I was able to get away. This happened last year. I currently work at a pretty popular clothing store. I've been working there for almost 2 years and do a little bit of everything. Last year was my first Black Friday at that store. I'd worked Black Friday one other time at a previous retail job I had, and I also go Black Friday shopping every year, so I knew about how busy and crazy it could possibly get. I worked at 5 a.m. on Friday, and when we opened, things got busy pretty much right away. After working at the cash registers for a few hours, I moved to organizing things throughout the store. We were slightly less busy, but still had lots of people throughout the store. I was at one end when a man approached me. He was holding a sweater, and he asked me if they had it in a size medium. I looked at it and then walked over to where the sweaters were. I saw that we did have several of them and showed them to the man, but he didn't seem too interested in the actual sweaters. Instead, he started asking me questions about myself, how I was doing, when I got off work, if I was single. The guy seemed like a total creep. He was tall, thin, and bald. I talked professionally to him, and finally, I think he got the hint that I wasn't interested in him, and he went on his way. I went back to doing the work that I had been. However, I did notice the guy staring at me from a distance. It wasn't all that obvious, especially with all the people that were there, but it sure was creepy. I looked up every minute or so, and would always see the guy standing somewhere staring at me. I was really creeped out. Soon after, though, it was time for one of my breaks. It couldn't have come at a better time. I was really happy to get off the sales floor away from this guy. I'd been working for several hours now, and when I came back from my break, the store was still really busy, but the man was now gone. I didn't see him anywhere throughout the store and was really happy about that. I worked until 1 p.m. and then, finally, was off for the day. I was tired, but planned on going shopping with my friend Amelia afterwards. So, I got some coffee at Starbucks, and then we did some Black Friday shopping. When I got home that night, I watched a movie and fell asleep at my apartment. However, I woke up at some point. I really didn't know what woke me, but I sat up in bed and looked around. Then, I saw the same creepy guy from earlier. He was staring right into my bedroom window. My apartment was on ground level, so he could just look right in. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Was this a dream? It wasn't. We were making eye contact, and he just kept staring at me. I was terrified, and I ran out of my bedroom and into the bathroom that was out of view of the windows. I shut the door and then called the police. I explained to them that some guy was staring into my bedroom window who had also been staring at me at work earlier in the day. As I was on my phone, I thought that I heard him trying to open the back door leading outside from my apartment. I stayed in the bathroom with the door locked. The police got there about 10 minutes later. Unfortunately, the man was long gone by then. They looked around but couldn't find him. There was really nothing else that could be done, so after telling me to call them if I saw anything else, the police left. I was sure to cover all of my windows well before going back to bed. I haven't seen the guy since then at all, but it still scares me that he knows where I live. I really don't know how he found out where I lived either, other than thinking he must have somehow followed me home, which is really creepy. After the holiday season last year, I got another job, but I still occasionally work at the same store, and now with Black Friday coming up, I'm planning to help out and work there again. Hopefully the guy doesn't return. Last year, I got up really early and went Black Friday shopping for the first time ever. I've seen many things over the years about how crazy it is, and I have actually shopped on Black Friday before, but never early in the morning. But last year, there were some deals on TVs at Walmart, and I happened to be in the market for a new one for my bedroom. The deals seemed too good to pass up, but I also knew that they would probably sell out rather quickly. So I got up early on the morning of Black Friday and drove to my local Walmart, which opened at 5 a.m. It was still dark out, obviously, and I parked in the back of the full parking lot and walked up to see a line of people had formed waiting to get inside. I went to the back of the line, as it was like 4:55 a.m. or something like that. The line was not outrageously long, so I did have a good feeling that I would be able to get what I wanted. Within a few minutes of being in line, at least 20 people got in line behind me. I felt glad that I got there when I did. Then, I saw the line start to move and realized that the store must have been open for business. I made it inside a short time later, and the whole store was already packed. There were either customers or employees everywhere. I went as fast as I could to the electronics section, which seemed to be where just about everybody else was going. When I got there, I saw people putting things in their carts and others grabbing TVs. I went over, found the one I wanted, and grabbed it. There were only a few left. Once I had it in my arms, it was a great feeling because I'm sure they sold out within minutes. I went to the front and checked out. It took probably 20 minutes to do so because of how busy it was in there. And after that, I got out of the store and was going back to my car. I had a cart for my TV, and I made it within probably 50 feet of my vehicle when I noticed a man laying on the ground like 10 feet away from my car. He had crutches, and one he was laying on with the other about 10 feet away from him. When I got close to him, he looked at me, and I asked the guy if he was okay. The guy said he had fallen and asked if I could help him up. I left my cart next to my car and walked over to help the guy up. When I reached my hand out to him, he was struggling to get to his feet. Then I heard a noise behind me. I turned around to see somebody take my cart and start running away with it with my TV still inside. The guy in the crutches then sprung to his feet, grabbed the other crutch off the ground, and began running away. I had been set up. I couldn't believe this, and I was furious. I chased after the guy who had my cart. He and the guy who was pretending to be injured ran in the same direction towards another car. There was an SUV with the back of it already open, where the men jumped into it, shut the door, and then sped off. I was so mad, and also couldn't believe that people would do this. It was a big hassle, but I was able to get another TV without extra charge from Walmart. But I would like to warn everybody from my experience to be careful when you're out shopping on Black Friday.